Good afternoon, everybody. I feel like Dan Rather reporting. It's been 24 hours. Hopefully, this show will go a lot better than the last. We had some technical difficulties, and, well, it didn't end up too well. So I apologize for that. And I only have an excuse of perhaps the Chinese did it. I don't know what happened. Hi, Denise. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. Welcome, welcome. Please spread the love. Tell everybody. Hit the thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. You all know that. And in case you all ever want to, you can send me a Mountain Dew. I've got the links to my PayPal, Venmo, Cash App, all that stuff in the chat there or in the show description if you decide you want to send me a Mountain Dew. So, yeah, after yesterday's show, I researched everything that could possibly have went wrong with my computer. And I don't know what the hell it was. I don't know. So my only guess is that the Chinese hacked me when I started talking about them. Thank you, Chris. And I've already got my plug in to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All right, well, let's jump into today's news. I went through and I took some things out because it's like, well, there's no sense in showing things twice because, well, it's boring and I don't want a boring show. So it's bad enough y'all have to listen to me talk. So we're going to jump into the news. And luckily, somebody at FEMA woke up and, well, there is the daily briefing from FEMA. Let's move that out of the way. And I guess Elon Musk got them all shook up, and they decided they were going to actually do their job and post the daily briefing. So we have Tuesday's daily operation briefing from FEMA, dated February 25th, as of 8:30 a.m. So let's see what we're going to get into. New significant events. Well, there are some. There's heavy rain and heavy snow in the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies. And there's going to be lots of fire activity in, well, they're saying Nebraska, Guam, not sure about, probably the Midwest because of the drought. I didn't bring the drought map up. And they approved a major declarational event for Kentucky. Well, that was well-deserved. Kentucky had a hard time during that last storm. So we'll jump in here with our daily forecast. Well, in the Northwest, obviously, you can see up there, lots of rain and snow. It's going to move across the top of the country, impacting the upper northern part of the country, parts of Canada, and then into the Northeast with West Virginia straight on up the coast out to the sea there, top of Maine. And it looks like that tomorrow it'll shift and it'll be a downward wind coming across the top of the U.S. from Canada and affecting the Northeast. My son in Vermont's going to get another 4 foot of snow. And Thursday, pretty much the same thing. It's going to be pushing down from Canada into the Northeast. Rain and snow probably extending all the way down into Washington, D.C. That snow line will probably stop somewhere, I don't know, right around the Appalachian Mountains, if it looks like I know my geography right. And in the Tennessee line, it'll probably change from freezing rain to snow. And here in Atlanta, we'll get nothing but rain. I stayed in Tennessee for a month. You'd think I could have got a good snow, but it didn't happen. So, all right. Well, what do we have here with FEMA? So the FEMA headquarters, as you know, they divided up into regions, and each region is responsible for their particular area, and they get resources from within the state in that area, the states in the country that are in that region. And here they're talking about the specific precipitation up in the Northeast. The main thing, as we'll see here in a bit, is going to be not just flooding, but high winds. And those winds are going to extend across the top of the country into the Windy City, Chris, and then extend all the way eventually over into the Northeast, but not just quite yet. Major declarations, obviously Kentucky. I still don't understand why North Carolina is off of the board. I have got no answers from anybody I've asked. I'm still continuing to ask. Supposedly they're voting today, and I didn't pull up what our elected officials are doing today, but supposedly they're voting to send money to California because the California governor is demanding, oh man, I should have pulled this number up. This is off the top of my head, but it's in the billions. And it's great. We should help them. But I think that we should send them the exact amount of money that was sent to Carolinas and Tennessee, to the penny. I don't know. Comment if you think I'm wrong. Welcome, Wendell. Because I don't really think they did as much in the Carolinas and Tennessee parts of Virginia too, as they should have. And now we're going to give all this money to the West Coast. I understand it's a larger population density. I understand there was a lot more people, physical number. I'm not talking about souls. I'm talking about, well, I guess I am talking about souls. I'm not talking about area. I'm talking about number of people. More people were affected in California, but the same is true in the Carolinas. People lost everything. So I think if we're going to send money, to be fair, we should send them the exact same amount of money we sent to the Carolinas. Let me know what you think in the comments. I could be wrong. It's just my opinion. It is what it is. So let's see what else. That's the only significant thing they've got marked as going on. We're going to see that uptick a little bit here with the windstorm and snowstorms that are coming in. You'll probably see some declarations up in the northwest here, probably in the next 48 hours, I would guess. But as of right now, they only have 36 people assigned to it, 28 search and rescue teams assigned. Not really sure what their task is unless they're still in California and the Carolinas, but they're not showing on the map, which is kind of weird. So, all right. So we get back into the damage assessment, Region 3, Virginia, West Virginia, and they've approved for a number of counties and the date that it opened, 2/18, for the flooding, severe storms and tornadoes in Iowa and in Pennsylvania. And then West Virginia. That's not Iowa. It's in Virginia. Oh, God, I can't read. West Virginia for flooding, landslides, mudslides, severe storms, and straight line winds from February 15th and continuing. They've had 13 counties request assistance, and they've approved them. A lot of people don't realize when the earth is scorched with the fires, you have nothing left, so there's nothing to hold the ground in place. You start getting mudslides. In the case of West Virginia, it wasn't a fire. It was all the amount of snow, and we know gravity pulls it downhill. So with that snow, pulled the top of the soil off, therefore causing landslides. Louisiana, winter weather. They're not used to it. So they've had 22 counties impacted by winter weather. That's pretty incredible. And freezing temperatures. Hawaii, heavy rain and flooding. Wendell says, I've seen there are 13 fires in the country today. We'll see. I pulled it up. I think there's a few more than that. You know, we will probably see Florida hop on board tomorrow with a request, because I saw Key West was flooded. They had, I think, over 8 inches of rain an hour down in the Keys and the lower part of Florida. So you'll probably see something pop up there. So reading here, this is the declaration of approval for the Commonwealth. It's not a state, it's a Commonwealth of Kentucky. It's a major disaster declaration. It was requested the 17th, approved on the 24th for severe storms, straight line winds, flooding, and landslides from February 14th and continuing. It's 10 counties affected. I'm not sure where Amanda lives in there, but hopefully she's okay. But there is assistance coming from the feds. Let's hope it's a better response than the Carolinas. Requested assistance. New York for severe storms. This was dated all the way back to 20 July. California for fires, obviously. Oklahoma for severe storms. And then you get into the severe weather for winter weather for Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and Kentucky again. So you came over to hang out with the cool kids. Well, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. I'm glad I'm one of the cool kids, even though I'm talking all this nerd stuff today. So this is talking about public assistance granted. That's 47B with $1 billion in the past week. And it's showing where it's gone. Some of the largest was to Georgia. Why are we still giving out $7.1 million? Cook County, that's Illinois. I'm sorry, Chris. Why are you getting $7.1 million this week for COVID? Georgia and North Carolina, there we go. They're popping up. Highways, highway patrol statewide, and rebuilding. So that's 3.4 million. So they're giving 3.4 million to North Carolina for hurricane relief and 7.1 million to Illinois for COVID. Luckily, down below, North Carolina is getting some more of the COVID money with 3.2 million, and then they're getting an additional grant of 2.6 million. Well, I think that at one point in time, Chris, I think that it was deserved and could be used, but at this point in time, as we saw yesterday in the number, yes, COVID is on the uptick, but it's less than 1% of the population at this time. So 7.1 million approved. That money's going somewhere. Don't know where. So don't know where. Follow the money. Yeah, COVID 7.1 for a total, Chris, if you're looking to the right there, for a total to Illinois of 2.2 billion, it's B, dollars for COVID-19. All right, so hopefully we won't kicked off for talking about this. For total amount to Georgia, they were given 368.4, love the 0.4 million. And then North Carolina, they got 405 million for hurricane. And then they got another 2 billion for COVID-19, North Carolina. Vermont, for their heavy storms, they got 150.8 million. Now, the reason that's such a small number is up there, they're used to dealing with the heavy snow, as I learned in one of my last trips up there. When they said, oh, a small storm's coming in, and my son asked how much, and I said 4 feet, it was time for me to get south. Texas has gotten hurricane relief to the tune of 84.2 million. This is total now for hurricane and severe storms. They get an additional 50.9. West Virginia got 6.5 million for flooding, and Mississippi got 73.4 million. So Alaska just had a few minutes ago. Okay, well, we'll pull that up on the earthquake map here in a few minutes, Wendell. Good to know. Wendell, do you know if they issued a tsunami alert by any chance? Let's see. And the immune system is becoming better adapted to fighting it. And in fact, that diseases tend to weaken as they mutate. I just don't get it. You're correct, Chris. Which also, I heard another YouTuber say this today. Literally with the bird flu, I'm not sure if you're familiar how they sterilize the areas. But basically, they go into where the birds are kept, the eggs in the meat breeding processing facilities, and they use a flamethrower. They use a flamethrower to eradicate the disease, i.e. the birds. Which I don't know if that's humane or not, but I don't. That's not for me to decide. I'm sure PETA should, and I think they should be on them. Having been a firefighter, I think that's one of the most horrendous things you could do to anything is burn. But anyhow, beside the point, it's just my opinion there. And remember, this is for educational purposes only, and this is all my bloated windbag opinion. Why are we not doing the animals the same way as we do humans and letting the disease go through the system and get in our DNA, and eventually our body builds up an immunity to it, instead of just killing them? I mean, separate them, let the ones that survive, use them for testing to see how they survived. We can do that genetically. But Big Pharma has a better answer. Remember, I told you the other day they can no longer jab you because of past events. They're now going to jab our food source. So instead of a bird flu jab, yeah, I'll probably get pulled on YouTube for this, they're going to inject the chicken with the jab. I don't know. You can let me know in the comments or email me your opinion. I'd be more than glad to share them, as long as they don't get kicked off of YouTube. So public assistance grant activity, this is per region. If you remember, the country is divided up into 10 different regions. I can go back up there, but that's how it's broken down per region. I think we're in region 4. Let's see here. If we go back to the top. Let's see. We're in region 4. California, I believe, is region 10. So it starts from the top and goes all the way to the left, I believe is how it works. All right. So that's how much they're getting per region. And we went over for what? Just still don't understand the COVID money, but who am I? So 43 approvals with 12 pending. So they still have a little money in the pot. It's interesting. If you follow the news, it's interesting. What region is New York? Denise, I believe they are 2. Let me go back up here. I believe they are region 2. Let's see if I can read my map here. I think they are region 2. So 1 is the north. They're either 1 or 2. I can't read my map. It's too far away. I believe they are region 2. We can do a quick Google search and find out. I'm not going to say for a fact, but I'm pretty sure they're region 2. New York. It doesn't say what region they're in. Just that they got money. All right. Where were we? This is new. I haven't seen this. Talking about survivor engagement. I guess this is talking about their response, because if you look at the calls per weekly response and the average time of reaction, I'll have to do some research on this one. They're continuing. One was on the Google Alabama line. Yeah, you're in a different region from us, Wendell. Let's see, it's continuing. I wonder if they're talking about the response to the emergency per resource available at the time. So in other words, my time would be different here in Atlanta as opposed to people that live in other areas. But the national response time should be 8 minutes, but they're saying 8 seconds. That's not right. Okay, that's talking about the call center, how long it took them to answer and respond. 8 seconds, 99.5% of the time. This is a new number. I wonder why they're putting this up, because they've been in trouble, maybe? Don't know. And I'm assuming that is not per the governor, that is per citizen. So that's how many people they had call, the average number of call, and then the amount of time it took a FEMA rep to answer them. So, okay, it was a good guess, Denise. It's been a while since I've done my hazmat training. So, and we'll talk about my hazmat training in a bit. So, I'm thinking that's the amount of time that it took for a citizen to call FEMA and say, I need help, to the amount of time that they answered them. And of course, it says that their workforce is growing. I'm not sure if that's going to be true under the Musk regime, but I knew the Department of Homeland she's pretty aggressive. So they still have 501 staff deployed across the United States. And in the last week, there's been 2,188 interactions, meaning it's people from FEMA that they've interviewed or talked to. So it's not went down yet. Ooh, that map is way too, or that graph is way too big for me to put on the screen here and be able to read without my trifocals being right pressed up against the, the screen. One of the biggest fires is near Cheyenne, Wyoming, and it's probably going to get bigger. We'll see here. Individual assessment. This has got to be individual assistance per state, because they're using B's and M's there. And I know some citizens were lucky to get thousands. So that's per state, I would assume, and how much it's went up. This is probably why the chart was not released yesterday. They were working on their new numbers to give to the new administration. Just a guess. These are for the accountants. And you can, if you want to look this up and download it yourself, it's a PDF file. Just Google FEMA Daily Operations Briefing, and you can pull it up and look at the exact numbers there if you can't read them on the screen like, well, I can't. Total, yes, this is exactly what they've done. Yesterday, they didn't release one because they were doing their math for the new administration. They're showing how much money they gave per state. This is a different graph. The other one was bar graph. This one is a what kind of graph is this? It's a line graph. And so it shows how much per state and how much it's risen over the past 6 months. So, and how much is projected to rise and decrease. So You can go online and look at that. That's total household distribution by FEMA. That's per direct declaration. Cheyenne is always on fire. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. All right, so that's the end of that. Like I said, if I went too fast, or for any of the listeners on Spotify, you didn't get an episode yesterday because I thought it was too crappy to even upload, so I apologize. So that's the end of that. Let's jump down to, we saw the weather. Let's jump in here and see what our weather quality or air quality is, depending on where you live. Chris, you're pretty good. Looks like I'm still in the yellow, which is moderate air in the south. It's to the southeast, or southeast of me. It's actually bad for sensitive groups, and up in the northeast as well, and down around the border in was that Texas, and then you get over into Arizona. It's kind of high. So all in all, it doesn't look too that bad. Union, Washington is under flood warning. Okay. That makes sense with what I'm going to show you here in a minute. All right. So there, Wendell, you were asking about the fires. I knew I had it pulled up. I think there's a few more than 13, probably 13 large fires is probably what it was. It's interesting, even with the heavy rains out west, you still see little fires. And the smoke plume coming out of the Louisianas, in the Mississippi's, all the way up across, spreading. That's probably why our air quality in Georgia is so bad, with that and the fires. This is a smoke plume map. Chris says he lives around steel mills, so his air quality is usually bad. Well, I'll be honest with you. I grew up in Washington, D.C., and when I moved to Tennessee and I discovered what nature was, the air has been bad for me ever since. I've had to take allergy medicine since I moved to South. 13 active now. Okay, well, these are sensors that each one of these are sensors that are activated by satellite. So let's just pick Georgia because I know the area. The little dots are the smaller fires that have been triggered by the satellite. The larger ones where there's someone actually on scene working them. So that may be correct, Wendell. But there's quite a few fires throughout our country, but the largest ones appear to be out in the Midwest. Alabama's actually got a few pretty decent sized fires. I wonder if those are set though. Wendell, you out there setting fires? No, I'm kidding. The Park Services set fires to burn off. What do they call it? Shrub. It's overgrowth. Overgrowth, I believe, is what it's called. So there you see the smoke plume, the way it's traveling from down in New Orleans all the way across Alabama, all of Georgia, up the coast, and going out over Virginia Beach, just short of Washington, D.C., into the Atlantic Ocean. Now, this map, is this the one? This one is too cool. I know this doesn't probably translate very well for the viewers, but this shows our winds, and we can see that there's a storm circling off of the coast there. And Chris, you said it was up in, Wendell, you said it was up in Alaska. They had an earthquake, so it's not very windy up there. But here in Washington, we'll see here in a minute, it's pushing this airflow inland, and then it's hitting the mountains there. That's what causes the Santa Ana winds. It hits the mountains and pushes down, and that back out and gets brought back in, causing larger winds. I thought this graph was just that wind dots. They are doing control burns. So, hey, Denise, I thought you were already here, Denise. Did you just find us again? I'm confused. There's a new Denise. Welcome, Denise. So this is a pretty cool, for the radio listeners and for the Spotify listeners, this is a picture of the globe where AI has taken and used all the different plotting charts to show how the wind is blowing. We know that oh, Denise says it's me. Okay. Maybe you had me on Facebook and now you got me on YouTube. Maybe that's what it was. Anyhow, they use AI to show how the wind blows around the globe, and you can actually, just like in Google Earth, you can move the globe around and it will show you worldwide. I just thought that was pretty cool not to share. So there, I'm nerding out a little bit there with some technology, but You can see off of the west coast there above Washington, there is definitely some ducting that is causing the winds to push inward. And with that is bringing heavy snow and heavy rain, depending on where you are. It's heavier rain to the south, which is California and Oregon, and heavy snow to Montana and Washington, which we'll see here in just a second. So I just thought that was a pretty cool map. That way you can see. And you can see that there's also over the Atlantic, there's some circulation up along the coast, extending up into maybe the 52nd state. I'm saying 52nd because we know Canada's going to be 51 up there. I'm kidding, by the way. Don't anybody bash me. Chris comments in the chat. He says he's a big fan of that map. It's at earth.nullschool.net, current wind, because he finds it relaxing. If you had that on a large screen TV with play some thunderstorm sounds in the background, I agree. That would be pretty relaxing. It's cool. So we see also, I forgot to mention that it's going around the Cascade Mountains and coming into Montana, and it's causing it to speed up a little bit. This next wind map, it shows speeds, but it's not quite as cool. It's a little more detail showing the United States. And this was updated at 12:16. Let's see if I can do this without crashing. Okay, it hasn't updated again. We see that the maximum sustained wind is 37 miles an hour coming into the, I guess that would be just, what would it be? That would be the Washington-Oregon line extending north and then hitting the mountains and going southwest, going over the mountains and into Montana, where it's going, caught in the jet stream and going back up to Canada. So those are some pretty fast winds. That's going to cause some of the fires to get larger in the Midwest that we were just talking about, because you see it's pulling the air up. That means it's going to be drier air. So in the Midwest, I'm talking about Texas, kind of up that area that where you see is going to be pulling up dry air. So, and here in the South, we're going to get cold again. Dang it. I'm not a fan of this. So let's see what else we got here. All right. So we were talking about the storms and what they have caused. This is, you can go online if you ever have a power outage to poweroutage.us, and you can see, and you can click on your individual state, and it will tell you the exact number. And I believe, at least in Georgia, you can get down to the exact county of how many people are without power. Washington currently has 151,967 for all practical purposes. Might as well say 152,000 people in Washington without power. That's due to the winds and snow. And we go down to their neighbor to the south. Oregon has 26,476. And the further neighbor to the south, California, has 38,000. So in California and Oregon, that's about 10% of their population. And it's almost half of the population of the state of Washington. And it's going to get worse. That storm is going to continue to push in and cause heavy snows. I pulled up a news article here to share with you. Thousands have been hit by power outages as damaging winds have struck the West Coast. More than 100,000, we just reported that, in Washington, Oregon, without power after strong winds came across the Pacific Northwest. Well, why does it matter? Because wind gusts could be a danger to people and vehicles. Big trucks do blow over in this, so if you're on the highway and you got high winds, stay away from the big trucks. That can be blown over fairly easily. Of course, you also have the problem of tree damage falling across highways that could make driving difficult or strike vehicles. As of 12:40 a.m. Pacific time, this was last night, they said that 42,000, we know the number is higher now, in Washington are without power. And let's see, Oregon, I lost my train of thought there, 76,000 in Oregon. So it's a high number. Let's pull this up and make sure it's nothing from Ross telling me I'm not on the air. Okay. Let's see. 7,500 in Washington, 44,000 in Marion counties. These are all in Washington. They've closed schools, opened warming centers, King County, that's where my family is all from, 11,000. And Lewis County, almost 5,000. The high wind is going to extend, and it's going to pose a hazard. They're saying gusts up to 60 miles an hour, 30 to 35 mile an average on the coastal areas, with maximum of 70 miles an hour. So that's around the Seattle area up to Canada. So stay away from it. It's dangerous. Stay inside if you can. The National Weather Service has written on X, formerly known as Twitter, strong winds are expected this afternoon through early Tuesday morning. Please prepare for these winds as they could potentially down trees, make driving difficult, and cause multiple power outages. Prepare for the worst. Yes, you should always have your stuff prepared. I've been watching a lot of these shows here lately because, as I said yesterday, this show is basically about how we survive today when all the other shows are about we're going to die tonight. I watch a lot of those shows. A lot of them are preppers. Not saying anything negative against prepping. Prepping is a good thing. We should all have stuff within arm's reach at all times. Probably a pocket knife, a flashlight, or the two main ones. And everybody says a lighter. I'm up in the air about that one. But you should at least have a pocket knife and a flashlight on you at all times. And during cases of these storms, you should have go bags prepared in case you got to get out of your house. So if you want, sometime we can go over some simple things you can do. We can have a special show. If you're interested, let me know. Let's see. Seattle also published in X that they were experiencing localized winds up to 60. And they were saying that they're going to continue basically. So as of last night and up until 4 p.m. today, this is their time. It's going to actually, it says 6 p.m. on Tuesday. It's going to continue with the high winds. So I'm sorry out there for you folks on the West Coast. It's going to be rough for the next little bit. So hang on. I'm sure we'll start seeing in our FEMA reports their assessments popping up in the near future. So this is talking about where the storm's going to move further inland. It's going to affect Montana out into the Midwest. Eventually, Chris will get over to you. Heavy rain, damaging winds. 5 states as of today: Washington, Oregon, California, Montana. You're going to see flash flooding, toppled trees, multiple power outages. So be prepared, ladies and gentlemen. Be prepared. The weekend, it's going to move further into the country. It's supposed to dump 2 to 4 inches of rain in coastal Washington and Oregon, triggering flash floods. That's a lot of rain. You know, well, I'm going to Google that before we get off here, because I saw the Keys had 8 inches of rain an hour, and we didn't see any power outages there. Maybe they were just more prepared for it in Florida. So there's numerous wind alerts and weather alerts across the Midwest. So be weather aware. Have a tool, pocket tool, and a flashlight nearby at all times. That's the best advice I can give you. All right, we're gonna hop stateside here, and then we'll go to a local story for me. These are events within the past 24 hours. We see down in California, Los Angeles, they had a large commercial. It was a pallet yard. If you've ever looked at any of the warehouses, they stack the pallets outside, and well, somehow the pallets caught on fire and caught the building on fire. So that's been a very large fire they've been working for in LA. Chris says, Newsweek putting a fairness meter on their article. Yeah, I didn't even comment on that. It's funny that they're asking the readers to what degree they're full of. Yeah, agreed. I actually, for doing this, I asked multiple people's opinions, including Jurg's, what news sources they trust. And I wasn't talking about politics per se. And it was funny the amount of people back and forth I got. Then I went online and did some research. I found, for my purposes, probably ABC is probably the closest to up the middle, as to use Ross's term, as we're going to get. Unfortunately. So I don't like ABC. Let's see. They had a first alarm fire in Dallas, Texas. That was earlier today in Texas. It was a fire in a 1-story wood frame dwelling, and They advised that they had the fire under control shortly around 1:30 their time, which, no, it couldn't be right. It could be, that's got to be Eastern time. Okay, so 1:30. Okay, so it is their time. My bad. Sorry. Here in Atlanta, gas leak, Paces Ferry. They are always forever having gas leaks around these construction sites in Atlanta. It's being on the hazmat team, which we'll talk about here in a minute. It's gas leaks suck. Not only for the traffic and citizens, for us. Cobb County, what did they have? They had a small house fire, and they had to go into defensive mode, which means they had to stay on the outside. So it must have been pretty well involved with flames when they got there. Noonan County, Georgia, they had an electrical fire in a 2-story apartment building. Okay. We have down here Sumter County, Georgia. Sometimes it's hard to read. 111 Oak Ridge Drive. I'm going to say that's a field fire. Yes, that's probably the field fire. We looked and we saw there were brush fires down there. So that's probably what that is. Let's see what we got up here. You got, Chris, you start listing the scanner and reporting stuff so we know what's going on in your neighborhood. Denise, I don't know where you live, but we could always try and look. Pittsburgh, they had a 2-story duplex fire. And what do we have down here? Aircraft emergency, Rocky Point, North Carolina. I did see this flash across my screen last night. It was a small plane crash down in Rocky Pleasant. Up in Andy's neighborhood, what kind of trouble is he causing in Baltimore? A box alarm assignment for a marketplace that has fire in a kiosk in the middle of the market. Okay, well, that could be dangerous. Hopefully the sprinklers got to it. Sounds like it did if it was only a box alarm. Usually a box alarm is, depends on your municipality, 3 engines, 2 ladders, and a chief and an ambulance. It could be give or take 2 engines, a ladder, depending on what part of the country you live in. And if you need me to tell the difference between an engine and a ladder and their duties, I can do that. I mean, fire engine, obviously, and a ladder truck are 2 different things, but as to what they're doing, this is what I mean. I'm not trying to be sarcastic. Salisbury, Pennsylvania. Command had a fire in a basement of a 2.5-story end row. Row is the condominiums you see built side by side by side, and that's what they call row houses, up north at least. And in a basement, that's one of the hardest fires as a firefighter to fight, because basically all that heat and everything is already pushed down, and it's, unless it's vented and going upstairs, meaning burnt through the floor, the fire is extended through the walls to the roof, all that heat and smoke is compartmentalized in that basement, and you have to crawl down the basement stairs, and it gets hotter and hotter as you go. It's one of the worst fires. One of the best ways to fight it is there's a tool where it's basically you feed a metal pipe in to the stairway, and it just sprays water to cool the area, and then you advance a team. Or, depending on how far the fire has progressed, you can get above the fire into whatever room, kitchen, living room, and you can cut a hole in the floor to let the smoke and heat out. So then you can go in and put water on the fire. Did I go into too much nerd stuff there for you guys? If so, I apologize. It's me nerding out over the fire stuff. Stabbing in New Jersey. Remember we talked about this? They don't know the condition of the victim. It's a female victim. There's going to be more and more knife events in the near future. We did talk about car events, but there's going to be more and more knife events. Situational awareness at all times, especially ladies. We talked about how yesterday, every 6 seconds, there's a sexual assault, predominantly on females. Situational awareness. I know it sounds silly. Don't go into a dangerous place, but sometimes you got to ride the subway or the metro bus or whatever. Always be aware. And having worked in the streets, I can tell you, if somebody's about to do something, they've got a particular look to them, then their eyes and their face, and it's their intent. So just situational awareness, keep that little pocket tool with you. or a bang stick. That works too. I'm not opposed to those. Body recovered, Staten Island. NYPD is on scene for a body recovery. All right, that's in the New York Harbor. All right, interesting. New York is always burning. Manhattan, 21-story high-rise, fire on the 10th floor. In Manhattan again, they had another high-rise fire. That one was on the 16th floor. I never did like fighting fire on a high-rise. Another one, FDNY transited all hands in a storage container of a building with hazmats. Storage containers are also possibly the second worst fire because you have no idea what's in them. People have rented them to put their meth lab or their stuff while they move. You can't tell until you get in there. Fire in a garage. This is probably another stabbing. New York PD on scene of a male victim shot with a firearm, and its firearm's been recovered, and the condition of him is unknown. Unknown perp information either. Well, hopefully there's a video camera. Wendell says the one that he is watching is live 24/7 national weather, radar, and alerts. Okay. Well, I can pull one up too if we want. Brooklyn had another very large fire. It's a 20 by 40 structure, 3-story. I don't want to bore you all with all the fires, but basically a house fire in, you said mine has more information. Well, I'm trying, Wendell. Thank you. Thank you. And this site, anyone is free to join, the New England Fire News Association, and you're free to join, and you can report incidents in your neighborhood. They have to, let me qualify a little bit. It has to be a confirmed incident. You can't just send in, I see smoke down the street. Lyndhurst, another fire. Let's see, Long Island, that was a fire too. Do we cover that one? Bayshore, a shed fire. All right. I think we covered this one yesterday. MVA with entrapment. No, that's a new one. That was in Rhode Island. We don't see much from there. In Middleton, Mass, they had 100 gallons of oil burning in a vessel. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. Not that one. Quincy had a fire and a ceiling fan that extended into the floor. Would it be the ceiling it extended to or the floor? Because the fire burns up, wouldn't it be the ceiling? But be the floor if you're about, I don't know. Perspective. Let's see. What do we got? This was in Mass in Brimfield, a car fire in a building. It overheated the system. Well, I guess it was on fire. It would. And I think that was it. I didn't see. It's pretty much it. This site it's kind of underutilized, and people really should report stuff in here more often. And hopefully, if you listen to a police radio or police scanner, you can send information into them as well. Like I said, it just has to be verified information. So it can't just be smoke down. I see smoke down the street. This is our world events. I just kind of scanned it. There wasn't a whole lot new on here. When was this one? This was yesterday after we got off the air. Water accident, 3 dead, 2 injured. Well, I shouldn't say after we got off the air. After my thing stopped recording. Thank you, Wendell. Glad you came in. We've probably only got about another 15, 20 minutes left. So let's see. What was this one? Officer killed. We're going to talk a lot about this subject. And when I say this subject, this particular case here in the very near future, this was the hospital. I may have some information on that that is very personal and up close for information. So stay tuned. You will probably see it on the Paranormal Guys, or maybe a special incident. All right. So police say that there was some kind of shots fired in South. I'm going to pronounce this right. Chris Elgin, in an elementary school. Who shoots in an elementary school? Come on, guys. That's not cool. Arkansas, severe weather. They're bracing for another rare winter storm. Come on. It's not going to be that bad. We already have one. There's another fire, Texas. This one is probably what we looked at yesterday, the biological event at the border with the measles outbreak and, of course, the listeria. So, yeah. This is the one we saw yesterday with the plane landing. Trying to see if there's anything new over here. The storm we talked about. Nothing really too new. Well, we do have the Keys popped up here. Extreme rainfall in the Keys. Yes, it was. There was a lot of extreme rainfall in the Keys. Let's see what they call extreme. That's all the details it gives. I know I saw yesterday on the Keys that there was lots of buildings flooded. I'm being redirected to Weather Central. All right. Well, I guess Weather Central is unavailable. Oh, there it comes. This is the authoritative window. You checked out too soon. Window is what on YouTube, Wendell? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Well, this is a new chart I haven't seen before. Interesting. Okay. This doesn't give me more information than I wanted, but this is pretty much what I already have. We'll look at the Keys, and they're calling it a hurricane. It wasn't a hurricane. It was just heavy rains last night. It won't show me what that is in Texas. All right, I'm not going to play with this while we're on the air here, but it looks pretty much the same as what we saw earlier. Let's see if while we're here, if they have that earthquake. Where did he say the earthquake was? It was Alaska, wasn't it? Let's see if it pulls anything up while we're here. We'll see how good this World Meteorological Association is. High temperatures. Okay, well, no, that's not what we're looking at. Nope. All right, so we're going to ignore this site for the moment. Get back to our regular map. No, Wendell, this is all on, this is actually called the event map. You can pull it up, and it's a worldwide map. And as we zoom out, I debated on pulling up the other map showing all the attacks. And they go right down to what the drones were and everything. We hear that enough on the news. It's boring enough. So I'm not going to report on that. The terrorist attack in France, we heard about on the news. Mass demonstrations against their governments in Europe. We hear enough of that in the news. I'm more interested in, us here in the States, and not so much man-made things, because all the man-made things make the headlines. That's what the preppers are there for. Let's see, this popped up here, Wendell. Is this one we're talking about? This is an earthquake. I didn't see this one. This was, okay, because after we got off, not an earthquake, volcano, after we get off the air yesterday. So, okay, well, they had a volcano and an earthquake. Goodness. That's just to the, was it almost due west of Anchorage. The volcano is erupting. Interesting. And what is this? That's just there is a tsunami alert. All right. So for the North Pacific Ocean, British Columbia, they had issued a tsunami alert. All right. Well, that hopefully it won't affect anyone. A lot of times they trigger them just in case, but vehicle capsized in Alaska. Okay, no, that's not what we want, but a tsunami alert, that one did just pop up. So let's see, out in the Dakotas, they're already dealing with the severe weather, and they have a tornado. Wyoming, it's a drought. It's strange. On one side of the country, or one side of the state, you're seeing tornadoes. On the other side, you're seeing a drought. All right, what else are we going to get into here? Osterkill, we looked at that one already. We were going up the East Coast here. Sorry. And did we make it into, we did the water accident. So that's pretty much what's going on in the lower 48. I will go into any of these other things if you want me to, but typically I'm going to try and keep it to the continental U.S. and maybe our new states, Greenland and Canada. I'm kidding. Don't at me. Even though I have been to Greenland, I can't say, it's beautiful. Heck, it's really beautiful. So I wouldn't be opposed. Been to Canada. No offense to the Canadians, but stay where you're at. I'm making it hard to leave. Well, okay. Well, thank you, Wendell. I appreciate that. That's a compliment. Hopefully the other listeners that are listening and people tuning in feel the same way. That's funny. Thank you, Wendell. I appreciate that. That made me feel good. Let's see. That popped up on my messenger. Carroll County. I'm going to assume that is. They got into a pursuit and they arrested a New York man after a high-speed pursuit in Carroll County. I'm going to assume that's Carroll County. Let's pull it up. New York man arrested after Carroll County high-speed pursuit. Carroll County, Virginia. New York, this is fresh. This just popped up. Carroll County, Virginia. New York man was arrested after a chase, according to the sheriff's office. Juan, whatever his last name is, Ladelfa, 29, was charged with pursuit. Began when he was seen driving a Ford Mustang on 77 South in excess of 90 miles an hour in a 65. Sped up when deputies, I don't want no cookies, sped up when deputies got behind him and the pursuit was on. Speeds were recorded more than 100 miles an hour. That will get you arrested, ladies and gentlemen. He made a U-turn and headed back. The deputies dropped spike sticks and then sounds like they pitted him. He was charged with reckless speed, felony eluding, felony destruction, and probably, they're gonna drop a marijuana charge on him. Good for them. All right, so that just popped up. That literally just popped up while we were chatting here. So let me get that off the screen. All right, this is the one I wanted to go to. This is recent news too. Well, I'm sorry, we'll go to that one more second. One more. Today, this is what our president is doing. Looks like he has a pretty light day. At 1 o'clock, he was going to have a press conference. I hate to miss that. And then he's signing at 3 o'clock, so we'll probably make that, but it'll be close to the press, so we'll just get pool cameras. He's signing more executive orders. I wish it had something for me to click on to tell me what the executive orders were. So far, he's signed, I think, more than any president. I could be wrong on that. But he signed a lot of executive orders. Single-day apprehensions at the border have hit a 15-year low under President Trump. Under President Trump, the days of open border are over, says the Secretary Nome. Customs Border Protection only encountered 200. If you remember in the past, they were coming by the thousands. These record numbers lows are after they launched a multi-million-dollar nationwide international campaign warning people. And I doubt you'll be able to hear the audio on this. She's introducing herself, thanking President Trump for securing the border, obviously. And she's saying that President Trump is saying, you're coming to America illegally, don't do it. You'll go to jail. We will hunt you down. Criminals are not welcome in the United States. I won't go into the rest of the political part. It's a great video. Check it out. Makes you proud to be American. But we sent a clear message. Come here legally. We do not want you. We will send you home. I love it. Yes, I agree. Go to Reddit and there's an interesting group on Reddit I found of all the women to the whatever it is, left or right. Yeah, go there. Okay, we're gonna go to something a little more close to home for me. This was in Knox County. It occurred earlier today. The 9400 block of Emory Road, Rural Metro Fire, which is the local fire department, responded to a vehicular crash. When they got there, the cab of a propane tank was on fire, and they had to work to get to make matters worse, the valve that shuts it off was leaking. So in other words, in the rollover, it was damaged and it was leaking. And so in an incident like that, you want to keep the tank cool, but at the same time, you want to put the water out, or you want to put water on the fire, but you have to do it a little bit different. You have to actually get between the gas and the air, because the air so high above the propane tank is also on fire. So you have to actually attack it and get in between those two layers. It's kind of hard to do. But if you've practiced it like we used to do in the fire service, it's not that hard, but you just got to practice it. There was a video, let me share it real quick here, that was taken on scene by one of the responders. And I don't think it has any audio. It's a fairly large tank. You can see they get the fire extinguished. We kind of caught it there. The propane was leaking slightly, a little bluish haze there. He's going a little fast for it. But they evacuated a 1 mile radius. There you go. You hear the chief telling them, nice job. They did get the fire out, but the gas was still venting. At a later time, they did manage to get the hazmat team to go in there and temporarily seal it. So it was a 1 mile radius. There was an elementary school and a church. They had to shelter in place. They did manage to get that out, though. Let's see, let's see here. How can I do that? Let's pull this up. I think I had a picture of it too. I can do it this way. We'll just make it big. Maybe. There we go. Pull it over here. And you can see they've got, if you look over here to the right, you see they're cooling this with, looks like water and foam. There's probably more than one line stretched. And this line, he wants to get between the gas and the fire, if that makes sense. And you want to put, because all fire is oxidation. It's just rapid oxidation. If you think about it, like rust. And you want to stop the oxidating process, because the fire is actually burning above the surface that you see that's on fire, because it's heating it up and causing the air to burn. It's a little more in depth than that, but that's it in a nutshell. So they want to get between it. They did. Then they managed to get a hazmat team in there, and they got the truck secure long enough for they're bringing in another truck. And now they're going to be on scene for an extended period of time, because they have to offload that gas into another truck, and they have to do it safely. And no, for one, you don't have a video of the incident. You're a scammer, so go away. Sorry, Charlie. I don't fall for that. I'm not clicking on it. He's posted over on Facebook a link to this incident. I'm glad you're watching. Please make sure you hit the subscribe, thumbs up button. But yeah, not going to click on that. That's a scam. All right, we'll go into some sports. I know Chris has been dying to get to this segment. This is where I'll lose my ladies. I hope not, because, well, we have college sports, March Madness coming up. Some of the ladies basketball teams are doing pretty well. The college basketball poll there, that's Bobby D's favorite team, Auburn. They're ranked number 1. My team is ranked number 5. So Alabama is number 6. They fell 2 spots. This is in men's college basketball, the top 25 ranking. So, yeah. BYU, Mississippi, St. Mary's, Arizona, Marquette, Purdue, Louisville, Memphis, Kentucky. That's usually kind of low for them. Maryland, Michigan, Missouri, Clemson, Texas A&M, Wisconsin, Texas Tech, Iowa State, Michigan State, St. John's. Then you get the SEC, Alabama, Tennessee, University of Houston. It took me a second. I thought it was a K there. The Florida, Duke, and Auburn. It's number 1. Yesterday's matchups was Houston over Texas and Michigan over Nebraska. NBA, not much of a fan. There's the scores if you wanted to see them. Women's, Georgia was beat by Texas, and Baylor beat Kansas State yesterday in the polls. I think Tennessee, click on it. Maybe it'll pop up. Chris says 2 Alabama teams in the top 10. Impressive how far the SEC has come in basketball. No kidding. Well, Texas, the Longhorns are number 1 in women's basketball, followed by UCA, Notre Dame, USC, UConn. There's the SEC team. Here's the SEC. South Carolina, LSU. Well, then we got North Carolina, NC State, TCU, then Tennessee. My team is number 11. And Ohio State, Oklahoma, Kansas. Kentucky, once again, is ranked lower. I would have thought they were doing better. By Duke, Baylor, West Virginia, Maryland, Alabama. Sorry, Alabama. Sorry, you're number 20. Don't care. Oklahoma State, Creighton, Michigan State, Florida State, and Louisville. That's your women's top 25 in college basketball. So yesterday we talked about this, and this had a cool picture. We kind of mentioned it. Well, it may have made it out there. It may not have. I'm not sure if this story got out yet or not. NASCAR was in Atlanta, and it was a photo finish. I mean, you can see that's like less than a second apart. That's less than the 10th of a second apart. But they got in trouble because they finished under a yellow right as they were on final lap, rather than giving them the extra lap so they could race it out. And so they caused a little bit of a uproar among the fans because they felt like some cars were slowing down because they saw the caution up ahead, but yet they waved. As you can see, it's not even a yellow checker. It's clearly a yellow flag, but they ruled that was the final lap and that was the winner. So they got into a little bit of trouble over that. They're going to have to review the rules, but they didn't let them race it out. They should have given them a caution, let the lap track clear up, and then give them 2-lap final. But they just said, nah, we're done. So that tickles me. So I'm not a huge NASCAR fan, but yeah, that was definitely a mistake because they should have thrown a yellow white out and then brought the field back together. And then yeah, Chris, the Atlanta area fans, especially Dawsonville, they make moonshine there. They get very angry. Yeah, Chase Elliott didn't get wrecked. They got very angry. So yeah, and that's a Gibbs car that won, a Joe Gibbs car. So but yeah, it was they should have thrown a yellow white and let everybody slow down and clear the track up, and then throw a green flag again, do 2 laps. If you can do 2 laps without wrecking, then you have a winner. But they just said, no, you're done. But as you can see by the photo, there was no checkerboard flag there when they called the race. So yeah, there was a little confusion, and yeah, they shouldn't have done that. So all right, so we'll talk a little bit about entertainment news quickly. I'm a little bit over time, but since I got cut off yesterday, I'll get in a little bit. See, so Elon's son X, and don't even ask me to pronounce the rest of this, when he visited the White House, his mom is upset because they're divorced. He's got a different wife. His mom was upset because he's gaining fame. People are contacting her, and she thinks that, according to her feelings and her thoughts about it, that he should be given, they should ask permission for him to be famous rather than him. It's blown out of proportion by him just going with his dad to the Oval Office, which I don't know. He did get famous for what we're going to see. That's his ex-wife, Miss Grimes. And apparently they're pretty social to each other, but he did cause a controversy, which we're going to talk about here for a second, called Boogergate. I'm sure that you never would have imagined that would have been a word I would use, except on maybe Misfits. Booger. Yes, there is Boogergate. Because, well, while he was there visiting the Oval Office, he picked his nose and he wiped it on the Resolute desk. Now, so here's what Boogergate is. And if you're not a conspiracy theorist, you probably won't understand this. So supposedly Donald Trump is a germophobic, and one side says that he wanted it removed and cleaned. And the other side of the argument was that they were scanning the office in Yergs. If you're listening, you can tell me how this works. But they were scanning the Oval Office and found a small listening device implanted in the Resolute desk. Now, he did wipe a booger on the desk. I can't believe I'm saying booger on my own show. He's a 4-year-old. That's what they do. But prior to coming in office, most of the items are cleaned, refurbished, restored, and put back to like new. So that would have been basically a just redone desk. The Resolute desk would have just been remodeled because it had been in the office for Biden. So one side of the theory is saying that Trump demanded it removed so that it could get cleaned because of the booger. The other side is saying because of listening device. The official response is a president after election gets a choice of 1 in 7 desks. The desk, the C&O, which is what he's going to use, is well known and was used by President Bush and others, has been temporarily installed in the White House while the Resolute desk is being lightly refurbished. Let's see if I can pull this up. It's on X. I don't know if it'll let me. Okay, so it's just a picture. Lightly refurbished. A very important job. It's a beautiful but temporary replacement. It's still a beautiful desk. But so, yeah, the controversy stems around, was it done because a child placed a booger on it, or was because their listening device in the desk? I don't know. Got me. But still funny, I get to say booger, and that there was a booger put on a desk beside the president of the United States. I don't care who you are, Republican or Democrat. That right there is funny. So, all right. So whichever side of the story you choose to believe is up to you, but you saw the old desk. There's the new temporary desk. The C&O desk is very famous, and so it's going to be in there temporarily. Yeah, Boogergate. There you go. All right, so I wanted to talk about this yesterday. So far this year, we're almost at the end of February. Each month, we have 6 police officers killed in the line of duty. The most recent one we talked about was Andrew William Durante of Pennsylvania, West York Borough. And then there was 2 police officers in Virginia Beach, and listening devices confirmed unfounded. And that's kind of what I figured. But since I got to use the word booger, I was going to run with it, Jurgs. The 2 police officers over the weekend that were killed in the line of duty in a traffic stop. And then there was another one in Mississippi that was killed in a traffic stop, a deputy sergeant. I want to bring this up because this doesn't get covered nearly as much as it should have. 13 line of duty deaths this year for police officers. Line of duty deaths last year, 163. That's what I kind of figured, Jurgs, but I would have thought that they would have done that at the beginning of when he took office, because they usually restore the Oval Office. Well, they pretty much patch and paint the whole White House. So I would have thought they'd have done it then, but I think that give the conspiracy theorists a little bit of traction, maybe. But like I said, it does it. It done it each administration, correct? And so I would have figured the desk would have been done then. So maybe it was a booger. I get to use the word booger and talk about the White House in the same sentence. I'm a happy man. So he says he doubts highly it was done again. I'm not sure if you're talking about the booger or if it was cleaned again. I'm sure they probably just cleaned it, is all they did. He can wipe a booger off. He raised kids. I really don't think it was a booger, but whatever. Let's see. Chris says, we lost an off-duty cop early this morning in my area in a car crash with a semi. The guy got killed driving from doing work on his new home, only 30 years old. Well, he's probably tired. So, I mean, I've lost friends in the fire service. We work a 24-hour shift. We've been up 24 hours, and on the way home, fall asleep behind the wheel and be killed in car wrecks. So that happens frequently. Jurg says they clean that office multiple times a day. I would think they would, especially with, the high probability this time of year with flu and COVID and cold season, especially with so many people visiting. I would think that they would clean it multiple times a day. So maybe it is just slightly refurbishing. But like I said, I got to use the word booger. I'm a happy man. Can't take that away from you, Jurgs. Can't take that away from me. I have to use the word booger on your radio station. All right, so getting back to the police officers, that's not a funny subject. There were 163 officers killed last year. The past 5 years, there's been almost 1,800. In the past 10 years, we're at 2,600. And for all time, this is since they've been keeping records, and I don't know the exact date that they've been keeping records, 26,900. Hey, we're not changing my name to Booger. No, it ain't happening. I'm sticking with Sportcat. So the show's not about me, so I can't call it Booger. Yeah, so this is happening way too much. We need to really value the human life more, and we really need to work on bringing crime down. Hopefully, I know, Ross, this is a political hot button for you, but hopefully the 2 new people in charge at the FBI will help with that. Hopefully the new border patrols policy will help that. Hopefully we'll start bringing crime rates down and we'll start seeing these numbers decline. But so far this year, we've lost 13, 6 a month. And I want you to pay close attention to this officer, because I'm going to be doing a complete story about him in the very near future. He was at the hospital when it was seized, I guess would be the correct word. The active shooter, he was the first running in to danger. So he lost his life in the line of duty. I do not know if he was the one that got the shot at the bad guy, or if the bad guy shot himself. I don't care about that. I'm more concerned about the personal story of these officers, and I'm pretty sure I may even have you help me on it, Ross. I'm going to be doing a special about this, so stay tuned. More to come. It'll be on one of the Pair Our Normal guys. I don't think I'll put it on the news show, or it might be a separate show. Yes, that's correct. It wasn't even his jurisdiction. That is 100% correct. It wasn't his jurisdiction. He was supporting a neighboring department. A lot of those areas in that up northeast use boroughs in small jurisdictions, and they work off each other's back all the time. We help them out all the time. So yeah. It's gonna, Chris, stay tuned. If everything works out right, we're gonna have a great show for him. And it's not because I know this officer personally. It's because of his valor and the contact I've made, that there was some closeness to me. So yeah, Patrolman Andrew William Durante, end of watch February 22nd in the hospital shooting, the active duty. He ran in, first officer on scene to danger. So good for him. Good for him that he ran to it, did his job. Bad because he lost his life in the line of duty. We don't want to see anyone lose their lives in the line of duty. And to be fair, I wanted to also bring up the fire service deaths. We've had 6 a month so far this year, ranging from West Virginia to Virginia, New York, California, Missouri, Pennsylvania, Maryland, in Hawaii, all in the line of duty. Some of these are, a lot of these, you can go to the FEMA site and it'll take you the firefighter fatalities. A lot of firefighters, you would think, oh, well, they were killed in burning buildings. A lot of firefighters are killed on the highway by people not paying attention and running into their vehicles or running over them. And my show didn't get this yesterday. And Ross, Jurgs, you might be able to help me with this. Under the last administration, I wanted to see why EMS doesn't have something like this. There's no one specific thing for EMS. There's a civilian, non-governmental agency, one that's done in Colorado, but it's not a federal agency that recognizes paramedics and EMTs for we die in the line of duty as well. We should have some type of recognition. EMS is under the Department of Transportation. It is the absolute wrong place for it to be. It needs to be moved to Homeland or FEMA. Even the Department of Health. But under the last administration, I tried for the first 6 months of their administration to get an answer. I emailed every person at FEMA, Homeland, and I was either given a runaround or not replied to. Who is in charge of EMS? There's a national fire chief, there's a national police chief, but there's no national EMS. It should be a doctor, a paramedic. Don't want to say this. Maybe a nurse. No, not a nurse. It can't be a nurse. We don't like nurses. So why is there not one? But instead, we're in the Department of Transportation. We have been since the 50s. It's time for us to bring EMS to where it needs to be. The technology is there. We're doing things that are more advanced than we did in the 50s. In the 50s, it made sense. It made sense to put EMS in the 50s under the Department of Transportation because that was the age of the motor vehicle crash, high-speed crashes with no seatbelts. EMS was part of the reason that the nadir pin is put on cars so that doors don't flop open and throw you out. EMS is also part of the reason that there's seatbelts. That in NASCAR are a lot of the reasons there are advances in our vehicles. NASCAR is one of the primary reasons. Every time a lot of people don't realize this, every time a NASCAR car crashes, they take that car apart, and I'm sure with AI now they get much more information they possibly could to what they can do to make our cars safer and better. And they've created the airbags. They've created, well, they don't have airbags in NASCAR. They do, but they don't. They've created crumple zones, pinch points. They've improved with the safety of them overall. EMS has been right there the whole time, along with what we call the rescue squad. But the rescue squad was the people who cut the people out of the cars. That used to be EMS, but it was separated, and now fire's taken it over for the most part across the country, except a few agencies. NYPD does vehicle extrication. There's rescue squads in small rural communities. But for the most part, traffic accidents fall under the fire department's jurisdiction. There are some EMS agencies that do traffic response and will cut you out of a vehicle, but for the main part, that's now under the fire. But we have no federal boss. We have no one that we report to up the food chain, so to speak. I mean, not that a police officer in Podunk, Alabama would respond to the, cheap cop up in DC, but yeah, there's no accountability for us. No, it's not the right word. Accountability. There's no one helping us out. We have no legislative people. We have no lobbying. We don't have any of that. Safer barriers or walls are basically the outside airbags. That is correct. And we saw that came after the 2001 wreck with Earnhardt. I mean, they were in the beginning talks of that, but it stepped that up tremendously. We learn one death at a time, unfortunately, in a lot of cases. And we did with that one. I think they do have one airbag on their roll bar above their head, if I remember correctly. I think there is one airbag on NASCAR, but the technology and the science behind vehicle crashes, what better way to research it than 200-mile-an-hour crashes? I mean, they made them lighter, faster. So yeah, a lot of people don't realize that. But so that was my pet peeve talk for the day. Why doesn't EMS have a place at the table with the federal government? There's no lobbying agency. There's no one to, go to that's in charge of EMS. I'm hoping this administration changes that, but we shall see. I haven't researched it yet. I was such a pain in the butt. I think I was blocked by some people in the previous administration. Earnhardt's death also brought on the head and neck receipts. Absolutely. And you have to wear a closed helmet after that too, I believe, Chris, because he was wearing an open helmet. The old timey school of thought racer just had basically was open at the eyes and stopped it pretty much just below the back of the ears. It was a much smaller helmet, not like a motorcycle helmet, which 200 miles an hour, I want as much protection around my noggin as I can possibly get. So, all right. Well, I have rambled on more than enough today. I got the show off. I guess the Chinese didn't think I was hacking them today, which I don't know what happened yesterday. I apologize. with Ross's permission and with his help, I'm going to keep learning and trying to do this every day. I'm going to come on at 1:00. If you want to tune in and catch, you can go over to Ross's channel, Jurg's channel, TV Talk 24. Ross, correct me if I'm wrong. And see, usually in the last few minutes of his show, I'm going to hop on there. So we kind of do a handoff, and we'll have some banter back and forth because we love Ross, and I love to give him help, but it's a cop fireman thing. So, yeah, we're going to try and do a little bit of handoff between each other, and then I'll go do my show. You can catch him. He's on 11 to 1. He has that agent that puts him on in WDJY in Atlanta, and he's all over some other places. And once we get the hang of this, Ross is going to help us move to hopefully Australia. I have an email outstanding I need to answer and talk about that. But I told Ross I wanted to get all these buttons and malfunctions out of the way before we took me international. So, yes. Or you can catch him up the middle, Jurg's. And he has a Facebook page. Go check out Ross. He's my buddy. Up the middle, Jurg's, jurgsradio.com, Rainbow Radio. He's got all that going on. He does a lot for all of my shows, not just this one. For the Two Witches, for Paranormal Guys, as well as when we're going to move the Misfits a little bit of a different schedule here because it's just so hard to get everybody on the same page for a Saturday. And I also have, and I was going to talk to Ross about this, but I'm going to go ahead and make the announcement. We have had a guest from Australia on several times. He's a hypnotist. He's a very talented parapsychologist hypnotist. And once a month, me and him are just going to do a show where we open up the airwaves, we take Q&A, and we invite people into the chat. We're going to invite people into the studio. Maybe he'll hypnotize them, maybe he won't. So we're going to start doing that in the near future. I had to get home from Tennessee and some things settled, and we were going to start doing that. So look for that coming soon. And the Grin and Guardian gang that I used to do the public safety show is just once again hard to get public safety people together. So that we still are going to do it. I might do that with the police officer show on one of those and bring in a police officer, maybe even Jurg's, to help me with that one when we do it very soon. And also I need to mention that we have a new show that'll be coming up. It's only going to last for about 12 weeks. It's covering the X in UFL. So you'll learn as I do. Jeff and his son are going to have a weekly show where they cover the games, have some banner, father, son, and it'll be kind of fun and lighthearted. So we'll have that coming up here in the near future. So that's what all I got going on. If you want to contact me, you can find me on Facebook, Sportcat Medic. You can search me out on the X at Sportcat. And if you want to drop me a message, sportcat@protonmail.com, or you can also shoot me a message through Jurg's Radio, sportcat@jurgsradio.com. And you can catch me also playing music Tuesdays and Thursdays, noon to 1400 is tape delayed, obviously, on the Thin Line Rock Station, www.thethinlinerockstation.com. Check them out, support them. Here in the near future, we're going to have a sponsor that I'm going to want everybody to check out. Thank everyone for their help tuning into the chat and for the comments. I appreciate it. Please like, follow, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And if you didn't get enough of me, I'll be back tomorrow at 1:00, 1300. Have a great day, folks. Unless something major happens, then me and Ross will jump in the middle of it. His parents are coming in, so everything can happen. Everybody have a great day. See you tomorrow.